Yeah, yeah. I'm so glad that you invited me to join you on the. How long you been doing the show?
Not long. My writing career has gone in the pisser, and nobody reading anymore, and it's
Yeah.
just been frustrating. So I've been writing novels, screenplays, nonfiction, and I started this for two reasons. One, I still love interviewing people. It's
Yeah.
all I do, and I love it. And
Hmm.
a lot of people said they have fun, which I think is the ultimate praise when someone at the end of an
Oh
interview
yeah.
says, "Thank you, I had fun." And that's what I try to do, Bob. I just figure, you know what? There's news and there's things, but if you can't approach it with some sense of humor, you know,
Yeah.
you'll blow your brains out.
Absolutely. Yeah, my Wednesday interview shows are my favorite shows of the week. I do four shows a week, and that one is my absolute favorite
And I
because I
truly
never know
have
what to expect.
an insatiable curiosity about everything. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't love everything, but I have a certain knowledge of film, literature, news, just enough to ask some questions and then get in trouble, a little bit of both.
Right. Right.
Well, I've been blown away by how much you're involved in. I mean, you're writing, Stephanie Miller and all this. How the hell did that all the confluence come together? I mean, when did you know things were breaking for you, so to speak?
Well, it was probably around 2013 when I first got invited to be on the Stephanie Miller show, and it's difficult to quantify the scale of Stephanie's following with that radio show. I think everyone who appears on that morning show suddenly realizes, oh my God, this is incredible. She's
Hmm.
got this enormous fan base
Yes.
that is loyal. It is, they will do anything for her.
Mhm.
Anything that appears on that show, anyone who appears on that show is immediately joined by all these people. And it just so happens with my podcast, it's so similar and to a certain extent influenced by Stephanie that when I started to appear and people in her audience started to hear what my show was like, oh, well, this is like a second Stephanie Miller show hosted by a guy. Let's all go over
I
there and
like
listen to
that.
his show too. So the Venn diagram crossover between her audience and my audience is enormous. But of course, I've been doing this for a long time, Jim, with political commentary. I'm coming up on the 20th anniversary of being invited to be a blogger on the Huffington Post,
Yeah.
which started in 2005, and that's what really launched me. In fact, that's how Stephanie discovered me,
Okay.
and how I knew that Stephanie knew about me because I was listening to her show on Sirius XM for many years, and I'm driving home from work one day. This is back when I ran an animation studio,
Hmm.
and I'm driving home from work listening to the Stephanie Miller show on Sirius XM, and she starts reading one of my Huffington Post articles. This is 2007, 2008, somewhere around there. And I nearly drove off the road.
That's got to
Stephanie
be a
Miller.
great feeling.
Yeah, yeah. And, not to make this all about her show, but boy, if more liberal broadcasters did that kind of show, I get the sense that progressive liberal, center left radio would be much more popular than it actually is.
What?
She's that perfect mix of kind of morning zoo fun with very serious political talk in there too. And that's kind of something I've been trying to bring to my own podcast.
Well, I watched just a little of Stephanie and she nails it. I think that, if I ever ran for office, it'd be politics is a joke and I have a great sense of humor. That's
Right.
what I would run on. And
Right.
I think that she has some great mix, like you said, of morning zoo, but when you can laugh at something, you can really bring it home.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just because you're laughing doesn't mean the message isn't, germane and severely pointed. And
Hmm.
I like that, and it keeps you coming back. Nobody wants to hear somebody, pontificate or be dark I mean, like too
Yeah.
newsy. And so I agree with you. I think, to do that today, especially today in the shit storm we're dealing with, and the other thing, I had to interview 90% bozos, and I had to delouse, after,
Hmm.
but it was a gig, I got fired because I was twittering. I don't Twitter, and very rarely, and I maybe 20 twits before I did this. Had a couple of whiskeys and asked Charlie Kirk if Trump's ass tasted like broccoli, and I
Well
got
done.
fired for that one, and because we
Oh,
were, and rightfully so. I mean, I was so tired of talking to these knobs. I had Sebastian Gorka once, and I had to gargle afterwards, and it was just, these pure knobs. But okay, I didn't want to get political, but these guys, I really. But there is one thing I'll say that during our conversations, most of them sounded human.
yeah.
And some of them are full of shit, and the next day you talk and laugh, and then in the morning they're telling you the election was stolen. And
Oh, yeah.
so enough about me. You directed music videos. You got Iron Maiden, Motley Crue. How the hell did Yes fall into that category?
Well, that's a long, long story, Jim, from a previous life.
Okay.
I ended up stumbling into cartoon animation just almost by accident. I had been into graphic design and doing comic book art and things like that when I was a kid, and then on into high school and things like that. And I was originally supposed to go to college for art. I just got burned out with it and decided not to go. So I began pursuing politics. But then the internet came along, and I got my first internet job as an editor on a very early online magazine.
Mhm.
And part of that was we were trying to figure out how to do this is the beginning of a long, long story. We're trying to figure out how to do banner ads, dynamic animated banner ads on the website.
Hmm.
And I discovered this software called Flash. And this was long before it was called Flash, even. It was long before it really kind of started to ride that wave in the .com era around 1999, 2000. And so I figure, oh, you know what? You can also do animated cartoons with this, in addition to making banner ads on websites. And so I started experimenting with that and doing some cartoons. And in about year 2000, May of 2000, Metallica decided to sue Napster, the file
I remember
sharing
that. I
software.
remember.
And so I did this cartoon satirizing Lars Ulrich and James Hetfield suing Napster. It was called Napster Bad. And I made this cartoon on my website, and it just blew up. It went viral. I think we
Yeah.
were getting like 10 million downloads a day or
Yeah.
something like that,
Wow.
shut down a bunch of
Shit.
different servers. And that kind of catapulted my whole career into this realm of doing cartoon animation.
Yeah.
And so, because of that cartoon, because of that Napster cartoon and the subsequent sequel cartoons I did after it, I was able to connect with a bunch of recording artists who obviously had seen this
Hmm.
thing about Metallica suing Napster and really enjoyed it. Motley Crue, in particular, was really into it. In fact, they asked me to do a cartoon just like that, but with them. And they were recording an album at the time. And so I wrote up a script. I emailed it to them. They went into their recording studio, the whole band, the Motley Crue band at the time, and recorded this script that I wrote for them. And then I animated it. And that led to a music video. And their management happened to also manage Yes, to make a long story short. And and this one guy, Jordan Burliant, who was their manager, decided, yeah, we should get together and put together a TV show pitch for
Wow.
VH1. And so I met up with Jordan in New York City, where we went to VH1, pitched this show based on the Napster cartoons and things like that, and maybe do a show that had a bunch of different short form, almost like an animated sketch show, an animated version of Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
And I noticed on his screen that he had the Yes album cover, the latest Yes album cover, as his desktop wallpaper. I
Hmm.
said, "Oh, you're a Yes fan. I'm a huge Yes fan. It was
Hmm.
one of my top three favorite bands." And he said, "Oh, yeah, I'm Yes's manager."
Oh
And
my
so
God.
that kind of led to a series of things. We got this. Got a green light from VH1 to do this animated sketch show, and so it turned out that we tried to get Yes to do a theme song for the TV show.
Wow. You
Yeah,
ask a
and
band like Yes to do a theme song for a TV show.
yeah, yeah. And in the meantime, they were in the process of recording a new album, and Jordan calls me up and says, "Do you want to do the album cover for it?" And I said, "Of course I would. Are you
Which
kidding
one
me?"
did you do so I can check it out? Which one?
It was called Magnification.
Wow.
But I should tell you that there were some issues with the publishing of that cover, and
I just
since
want to
then,
see it. I don't care. I just want to see it and
yeah,
see what you
yeah.
do. Have you had a CAT scan recently to see the horseshoe up your ass? I mean, I was
Maybe I
just
should
curious.
schedule that.
I mean, I've got a brother-in-law that's got the same thing, and I'm just like, I really respect people who are diverse and have so many
Yeah,
different things. And that's so amazing. I heard a few weeks ago that the South Park guys didn't really like Seth MacFarlane's humor. I
Yeah.
I like MacFarlane, and I'm wondering, do you get that? Do you think the South Park guys are a little more gritty?
Well, yeah, very much so. Although, they go after everybody. I
Yeah,
mean, they're an equal opportunity offender, as the saying goes.
right.
And so, yeah, I mean, anything that seems even in the slightest pretentious or
Yeah,
up your own ass or whatever,
yeah.
South Park is going to go after that and try to deconstruct that, take that down in the
Okay.
way that only they can. And so there's always, I think an ongoing competition as to who gets to a comedic idea first. Is it
Yeah,
going to be The Simpsons or South Park? And a lot of times now it tends to be South Park because I think they're willing to take many more risks
yeah.
that the Simpsons I don't think have taken in many years. So I think that's
Are
the
you
key
talking The
there.
Simpsons or are you talking Family Guy?
Well, but I think both.
They're
I
both
think
kind of,
I
yeah, compared to
Yeah, I
South
mean,
Park,
I
they're
love
both,
Family Guy, I love The Simpsons, but
yeah,
I think the South Park guys will kind of needle anybody
yeah.
who's not South Park, and that's
Well,
fine
The
too.
Simpsons don't cut throats. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
They box, but they don't cut throats. And
right.
how do you stay abreast? What do you, I mean, I used to watch CNN, I watched MSNBC until November 5th of
Yeah,
2024. And
yeah,
when Mika and Joe went down to kiss the orange testicles, haven't watched since, Bob. And tell
yeah.
me about what you felt about that. And Jim Acosta leaving CNN. A lot of these things were on the wall for me. What's happening there, and what are your sources now? What do you trust?
Um, it's more or less the same. Like you, I haven't really watched cable news at all. I've watched
Not
a few
once.
episodes,
Not
maybe.
once.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've turned it on a couple of times since then, but by and large, I mean, I used to watch Lawrence O'Donnell every night. Still love
Sure.
Lawrence O'Donnell's
Sure.
work. Chris Hayes, Joy Reid.
I used to
Sadly,
like
she's
Brian Williams. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. But now I'm on Blue Sky most of the time,
I don't know what that is.
and from there that hopscotches over to uh, obviously print news. The website versions. But I'm still a subscriber to the New York Times, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal. I'm a new subscriber to Wired, which has been doing incredible journalism since the inauguration
Wow.
and getting quite a few exclusives, quite a few scoops along the way, and they've just been utterly fearless. So I always try to recommend it's I think relatively inexpensive to subscribe to the digital edition of Wired, and it's certainly worth your money to help them out over there. But yeah, those are my primary sources. Still, I try to. As someone who has been in journalism in my past,
Yeah.
among many other things, obviously, uh, I try to support, print journalism. I try to support real journalism. I don't usually spend a lot of time on aggregator websites or things like that. I'm usually going to the source and getting it firsthand. Although, as I said, the launching pad is very often a website like Blue Sky, which still will allow posts that have links in them to get the same level of attention as any other post. Whereas on Twitter, which has just become a shithole
Yeah.
8chan
Right.
copy, which is it's not even worth going on Twitter anymore.
Yeah.
But with Blue on Twitter, what they would do is the algorithm would downplay anything that had a link in it. It's the
Hmm.
same with Facebook. Facebook downplays anything that has a link inserted in it. So I'm constantly posting on Facebook still, where I say at the bottom, link in the comments, or I put the source in the comments so that Facebook doesn't notice the
But
link
if you
necessarily.
put a link to your site, it'll jam you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It'll just you won't get the same kind of reach,
Because I'm trying
which
to
is
do,
just yeah.
if you were trying to promote a channel like mine, which has, nothing, what platform would you use?
Substack. What you're doing right now is what many people are doing on Substack right now.
Oh
Obviously, is
shit, I thought I was unique.
yeah. I mean, that's what's happening is there's this now ongoing throughput of fired journalists starting up quite successful Substacks.
Okay.
and availing themselves of the technology there, not only to post video, streaming video shows, not only to post, I post my podcast on Substack
Mm.
in addition to all the other platforms, but they're also doing a lot of live streaming
Yeah.
shows that get quite a bit of attention. And
Yeah.
right now with Substack and Blue Sky, the advantage there is the algorithm is very favorable
Yeah.
to spreading the word about things. It's very easy.
On Blue
It's
Sky?
like, yeah, Blue Sky. It's very much like Facebook was prior to late 2013.
Yeah.
Facebook, it used to be that on Facebook, if you posted an article of your own and, added a little blurb there, it would circulate like crazy. It would just get all over the place. And yeah, so you would end up with hundreds of thousands of views on the article itself. You would get all kinds of followers. And then they changed their algorithm on Facebook in late 2013 that made it much more difficult for publishers to
Mhm.
promote their work. And
Mhm.
everything changed from that point forward.
If started this 20 years ago, my life would be different. But now I'm jumping into a sea of eels, and
Yeah.
I know it. I'm not have no delusions about this. But like for instance, Bob Hayes of it was the pilot in Airplane, and he and I are friends, and have been for. We were going to write a book together,
Mhm.
and I have videos up there with a lot of other people, but his numbers have dwarfed, I mean, all the others. In 3 days, for me, a lot of hits, and then the others. I mean, so I don't know. It's tricky to find out where you're and how, and that's what I'm navigating now. Has
Yeah.
any
Yeah.
political television show, and by that I mean drama, or movie, gotten politics even partially right?
Oh, yeah. It's hard to say. I would say the closest. It's really, God, that's a tough question. I love The West Wing.
Yeah,
I
I never watched it, and I want to.
really responded well to it. It's idealistic. It
Yeah,
really kind of signified a glossier version of the way politics used to be in this country,
yeah.
where there wasn't this degree of partisanship, although there's plenty of partisanship on the West Wing. Um, there was a mentality, a more gregarious, collegial attitude in DC for many, many
Well,
years,
there was
even though,
discourse. There was discourse.
yeah, there was, yeah, yeah. And it was built on compromise
Yeah.
and things that founded the nation. I mean, America was built on compromise. And so that was, I think, forefront on the West Wing. While some of the actions by the Bartlett administration on the West Wing was certainly presented in a way that was unlikely in actual politics. You seldom have someone who's an egghead, very, very smart, who speaks Latin, things like
Mhm.
that.
Right.
You don't normally see in American politics. So, from that point of view, very idealized. However, the politics were always grounded in reality. And even in a critical way, a lot of people have criticized the West Wing, especially in later seasons for this, but they would often very well represent both sides. While it was always considered, the nickname was the left wing because
Sure.
it was a liberal Democratic
Sure.
administration featured, they did go out of their way to emphasize some conservative ideas. And so, in that sense, it
Mhm.
did become, a little less liberal as the seasons wore on. But yeah, I mean, from what I learned, because my major was political science, I graduated with a degree in political science.
Mhm.
Based on that education, what I saw on the West Wing certainly played out based on what I learned in college
Mhm.
and what I've learned firsthand by observing it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I would put it that I think House of Cards shows like that, Veep even is a little more cynical.
I love Veep. I love.
Yeah, I mean it's funny and wonderful, and Julia Louis Dreyfus as an
She's so
actress.
talented. That woman
Yeah,
is amazing.
yeah, yeah.
You know.
Although that's obviously a more cynical take
Yeah.
on politics, but there are some worthwhile things in there. There's some truth in all of the political shows.
Well, I heard this morning,
There
my
was.
wife and I get up and we glance at CNN, we don't
Yeah.
inhale.
Hmm.
And they're going after the Smithsonian now, as you
Yeah.
heard this morning. I'm torn between being nauseous and laughing my ass off. I don't, it's like I said, if this person, the orange guy, shat on a stage and rubbed his face in it, his followers would be like,
Oh
"Yep,
yeah. Yeah.
that's great. He's great at that." And I literally, my blood, I swear to God, Bob, I could feel my blood start going, warming up when I read some of this stuff. And someone said it best when they said the depths of stupidity are astounding.
Yeah.
And that scared. Are you scared or are you okay right now? I mean, are you? Because I was scared. Now I'm like, maybe not.
Well, it depends on when you catch me, Jim. It depends on what's happening in the news. When I read something like Mike Johnson floating the idea of shutting down the district level federal courts, that scares the shit out of me.
Right.
When I see Donald Trump talking about the Gulf of America,
Yeah.
that nonsense, that makes me laugh. When
Yeah.
I see, and the story about Signal has me both cringing,
I don't know that.
furious, and laughing at the same time.
What is that?
The Signal story is that the senior officials and the principals committee of the National Security Council, we're talking about the vice president, secretary of state, chief of staff, secretary of defense, they were all engaged in this chat on this consumer app called Signal,
Hmm.
which is technically encrypted,
Oh
but
wait, are
was
you talking about the military strike?
yeah, the
Okay,
strike on
I
Yemen, where they
got
were
that. I
talking
just
about their
never
war
heard
plans.
signal. Yeah, I mean, and Mike Johnson scares me more than a lot. He looks like a Stepford wife, or he looks like if he walked into Westworld, they'd be like,
Yeah,
what a
yeah,
scary
yeah,
fucker. I mean, he's just like, he looks like an animatronic, and like Pence used to. I have a drop of respect for Pence now. I hated him more
yeah.
than anything, but at least he found the testicles to say no more.
He did, and he stood by that
Yeah,
in the
I mean that
subsequent
that
years.
was surprising to me that he
Mhm.
did. But
Yeah,
I have one theory, and you're the politics guy, that if we get enough of grassroots fed up, some of these guys may turn. If they realize their ass is on the line, I don't know. I don't know anything about anything, but I see the only hope is if the grassroots turn against
yeah,
their politicians. And these guys are so self-serving, they may not want to be out of office. But then again, the big guy could, quash
yeah.
it. So,
It's really going to get to the point, especially with what's happening to the Social Security Administration.
yeah.
It's going to get to the point where, especially House Republicans, are going to have to decide whether their loyalty to Donald Trump, which is based on nothing but intimidation,
Right, I agree.
is more important than them keeping their job.
Yep.
Because if all things remain fair and free when it comes to our elections, then it's going to be a bloodbath for the Republicans in the
Right.
midterms. I mean, beyond 2000, what was it, 2006,
Yeah.
beyond the shellacking that happened in 2010,
Hmm.
Barack Obama's first midterm. This is going to be, I mean, because the Senate map, especially, is favorable to the Democrats and shitty for the Republicans.
Hmm.
Republicans have to defend way more Senate seats in
Hmm.
2026
Hmm.
than the Democrats do. Knowing that, knowing the way things are going, knowing what's happening with Social Security in particular, knowing what's happening with the fact that Donald Trump doesn't even seem to give a flying rip about fixing inflation. He's just making it worse with this
Yeah.
ridiculous obsession on tariffs,
Hmm.
that it could be one of those elections where the Democrats come damn close to getting 60 votes in the Senate. And a gigantic majority in the House. What we're seeing right now is unprecedented as far as electoral outcomes, where Democrats are winning districts in special elections that Donald Trump may have won by upward of 30 points.
Right.
Right now, there's a special election happening on Tuesday in the 6th District of Florida. This is National Security Advisor Mike Waltz resigned from that seat, won that election, won in 2024
Hmm.
by something like, as I said, something like 30 points in the Florida 6th District, the House District. Now there's a special election happening in that same district to replace Mike Waltz. The Democrat has come within 4 points in the
Wow.
latest poll of defeating
Wow.
the Republican. So if that happens, I doubt the Democrat will win in that race. But even if he comes close, uh, and that close, if he comes within 4 points of the Republican, you're going to see House Republicans beginning to break away from
Yeah.
Donald Trump
Right.
just
What's
for
going on?
fear of their own job. Yeah.
We have a big race here in our attorney general. which Musk has been putting a boatload of money in Wisconsin
Oh
and
yeah.
trying to sway that one. And that'll be interesting to see how that turns out because I think if Crawford wins, I don't want to hoard it up on politics. The last question is I just say, Democrats have brought a butter knife to a gunfight for the last, 20
Yeah.
years. All right, I'll let you go in a minute, but I've got a questionnaire. I've got a questionnaire. It's an
Okay,
either
great.
or. It's an either or.
All right.
And so I judge whether your opinion is right or not. So,
Okay, fair enough.
all right, Ford F-150 or a Harley?
Harley,
Miller Lite or Guinness Stout?
Guinness Stout,
Citizen Kane or Pulp Fiction?
Pulp Fiction,
Walter Cronkite or Tom Brokaw?
Walter Cronkite.
That one is indeed wrong. I'm sorry, Bob. Would you
Wow.
would you rather sell used cars or be an undertaker?
Sell used cars.
Oh hell yeah. Have you seen used cars with Kurt Russell?
Yes, I
Yeah,
have.
I
And
mean,
I've also seen 6 Feet Under several times. So
yeah,
I'd rather not be an undertaker.
I don't like coffins and funeral. When I see a hearse
Yeah.
drive by, my ass puckers. Rather be faced with a rattlesnake or a wild boar?
Wild boar.
Mm. Rattlesnakes, I think they're a little more timid than we think. They don't want any part of us. Those boars are scary.
Yeah, yeah.
Twinkie or a ho ho?
Ho ho.
The pain of a root canal or the pain of a tattoo?
Ooh, good Lord. I'm going to go with tattoo.
All right, we kind of alluded. One night in prison or one night in a coffin, and not closed.
Oh, one night in a prison.
Right.
Coffin is my worst nightmare. I mean,
What? Yeah, me too.
I'm horrendously claustrophobic. And
There was, I have my nightmare of being buried alive and just the sheer
yeah,
panic of that. But broken leg or broken clavicle?
clavicle.
Bamboo jammed under your fingernails or sex with Marjorie Taylor Greene?
Oh, I'm going to go with the bamboo.
I'm surprised your husband doesn't go through crates of Viagra to get to that. It's just,
Let's say.
I can't. And